1. Overview of PIPEDA and its purpose. Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act, PIPEDA, is a Canadian federal law that governs the collection, use, and disclosure of personal information by private sector organizations. The purpose of PIPEDA is to establish rules for how organizations handle personal information in the course of their commercial activities. The law applies to all businesses that collect, use, or disclose personal information in the course of commercial activity. This includes organizations that operate online, as well as those that have a physical presence in Canada. PIPEDA sets out guidelines for how organizations must obtain consent from individuals before collecting, using, or disclosing their personal information. In addition to setting out rules for how organizations must handle personal information, PIPEDA also establishes the Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada. This office is responsible for enforcing the law and investigating complaints related to privacy breaches. Overall, the goal of PIPEDA is to protect the privacy rights of individuals while allowing organizations to continue to conduct business in a way that respects those rights. By establishing clear guidelines for how personal information should be handled, PIPEDA helps to ensure that individuals can trust organizations with their personal information. 2. Key principles of PIPEDA. One of the key principles of PIPEDA is consent. This means that organizations must obtain an individual's consent before collecting, using or disclosing their personal information. Consent must be obtained in a clear and understandable manner, and individuals must be informed about the purpose for which their information will be used. Another important principle is accountability. Organizations are responsible for ensuring that they comply with PIPEDA and protecting personal information under their control. This includes implementing appropriate safeguards to protect against unauthorized access, disclosure, or misuse of personal information. PIPEDA also emphasizes the importance of limiting the collection, use, and disclosure of personal information to what is necessary for the identified purposes. Organizations should only collect information that is relevant to the purpose for which it is being collected and should not use or disclose it for any other purpose without obtaining additional consent. Finally, PIPEDA requires organizations to provide individuals with access to their personal information and the ability to correct any inaccuracies. Individuals have the right to know what personal information an organization has collected about them, how it is being used, and to whom it has been disclosed. They also have the right to request that any inaccurate information be corrected. Overall, these key principles of PIPEDA emphasize the importance of transparency, accountability, and respect for individuals' privacy rights. By following these principles, organizations can help ensure that they are complying with Canada's privacy laws and protecting personal information from cyber threats. 3. Compliance requirements for organizations. Organizations that collect, use, and disclose personal information are required to comply with PIPEDA. This means that they must obtain consent from individuals before collecting their personal information, and they must only collect the information necessary for the purposes identified. Organizations must also ensure that the personal information they collect is accurate, complete, and up to date. Under PIPEDA, organizations are required to protect personal information by implementing appropriate security safeguards. These safeguards must be proportionate to the sensitivity of the information being protected, and they must protect against loss, theft, unauthorized access, disclosure, copying, use, or modification. Organizations must also have policies and procedures in place to respond to privacy breaches. They must notify affected individuals and the Privacy Commissioner of Canada if a breach occurs that poses a significant risk of harm to individuals. Finally, organizations must provide individuals with access to their personal information upon request, and they must allow individuals to challenge the accuracy and completeness of their personal information. Compliance with PIPEDA is not optional. Failure to comply can result in fines, legal action, and damage to an organization's reputation. It is essential for organizations to understand their obligations under PIPEDA and take steps to ensure compliance. 4. Impact of PIPEDA on cybersecurity practices. As a cybersecurity technician, it's important to understand the impact of Canada's privacy law, PIPEDA, on your organization's cybersecurity practices. PIPEDA requires organizations to protect personal information by implementing appropriate security measures, such as access controls, encryption, and regular security assessments. One of the key impacts of PIPEDA on cybersecurity practices is the requirement for organizations to conduct a Privacy Impact Assessment (PIA) before implementing any new system or technology that involves the collection, use, or disclosure of personal information. This means that cybersecurity technicians must work closely with privacy professionals to assess the potential risks and vulnerabilities associated with new technologies and ensure that appropriate safeguards are in place to protect personal information. Another impact of PIPEDA on cybersecurity practices is the requirement for organizations to report any breaches of personal information to affected individuals and the Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada. Cybersecurity technicians must be prepared to respond quickly and effectively to data breaches, including identifying the cause of the breach, containing the damage, and implementing measures to prevent future breaches. Overall, PIPEDA has a significant impact on cybersecurity practices, requiring organizations to take a proactive approach to protecting personal information and ensuring that appropriate safeguards are in place to mitigate the risk of data breaches. As a cybersecurity technician, it's essential to stay up to date on the latest developments in privacy law and work closely with privacy professionals to ensure that your organization is in compliance with PIPEDA's requirements.